Hi, welcome to my channel. You probably searched for Final Fantasy or other video games related to it if you're here. I wanted to make this video. I wanted to discuss, Final Fantasy as a franchise, from its first game up until, now, and pretty much its effect on me. I'm John, if you don't know. I made some videos in the past about wrestling. I've done a Q&A about, wanting to be a teacher and, reading in general, just as a pastime, how I think it's really important to try to combat the rate of illiteracy that we have in this country, the United States. Yeah, I want to dive right in. I want to talk about Final Fantasy for the NES. I played this game to death. I played this game for many years. I've beaten it probably 50, 60 times. I've used all different kinds of setups, with a fighter, without a fighter, with a black belt, without a black belt, white mage, no white mage, etc., whatever. About one of the only things I haven't done with the first Final Fantasy game was a party of all white mages, which I hear is very slow and would probably make me want to claw my eyes out. And they've remade it a lot over the years, and I especially liked when they redid it for the PlayStation on Final Fantasy Origins, when they bundled it with the real Final Fantasy 2. I really liked the way that they translated everything better. The first Final Fantasy was a bit rough, and it didn't have very much text to it. But, even just for all of its flaws, I think that it was one of the best games that they've ever put out. Obviously, the name Final Fantasy implies that they thought it was going to be their last shot at making a game. And here we are, 14, maybe 15 Final Fantasies later. It's pretty incredible. That's not to mention all the different runoffs that they had on the Game Boy, like Final Fantasy Adventure, etc., whatever. But yeah, I really did enjoy the first Final Fantasy. I think that for a lot of players, not just me, it really made you, drew you into the world. It put you in the shoes of the Four Light Warriors. Like, you really could identify with them, and you were on that quest. It wasn't just pixels on a screen necessarily. Other games at the time, like Dragon Warrior, was pretty sweet, but ultimately I think Final Fantasy did, some unique things, obviously with their battle screen, with the different weapons you could equip and the different animations that you could see, how the characters themselves would level up, at the class change. I really liked that idea, because you didn't have to do that in order to progress with the game, but if you did, it felt like a really big achievement because it unlocked a lot of stuff. Like, fighters became knights and could use white magic eventually. And I thought that was pretty sweet. Mages became wizards. They really learned to master whatever magic that they were using, and that was very important later on too, when you wanted to learn, like, life and Cure 4 and what else was it? There would have had, like, Nuke. There was really high magic. XXXX, which I believe was supposed to be death. Flare, I guess, was Nuke. Yeah. So lots of cool stuff going on. The story was simply amazing. They took you from the little, back-ass town of Cornelia into the castle of Cornelia, where the king's like, oh crap, my daughter is missing, the princess is gone, save her. In a very typical role-playing game type scenario. But then all of a sudden, the whole map starts to open up to you, and a whole different story starts coming on. And it's got pirates in it, it's got an ancient civilization whose language has been lost in the Leafinish. It had elves, it had dwarves. You go on adventures, you meet a troll that wants to eat rubies in a cave. You meet the Dark Elf, who originally says that he's a rightful king and his crown's been stolen. When you return it to him, obviously he shows his true colors, and you know he betrays you, and that was pretty sweet. I mean, there's just a lot going on. The whole idea of the four fiends, although it's not necessarily super duper original, it's in a lot of different mythology and that sort of thing. But I felt that that really helped the game because of the use of the four light warriors, the theme of four. You know, they had the four crystals. Obviously, you had those four elements. It felt like a lot bigger of a game than just a Nintendo cartridge. You know, they had the super special Nintendo Power Edition that came out that was dedicated to Final Fantasy, and that was really cool. I liked how Garland came back in the end, how he was actually Chaos. Like, it really brought you full circle with the story, and I think that that's really important to do sometimes, is to prove that, you know, first encounters and first impressions really can be deceiving. That's what it taught me anyway. In terms of Final Fantasy II, like the real one, I never played it, so I really can't comment on that. I know that they remade the third one. I've never played that either. I would really like to do so, you know, but I'm a college student. I don't have time. Final Fantasy IV, the first one that was released on the Super Nintendo. I played that game absolutely to death. I think I might have even burned out a cartridge doing so. I definitely killed the battery on it. What a great story. What a great game. You know, like, having two, you know, mortal enemies in Cecil and Golbez, and all of a sudden you find out later on that they're brothers and that one's being controlled, and it's just who's screwing with who here. And I really loved all the characters in 4. They had so much depth. And I really liked the use of Kain. You know, like, is he on your side? Is he not on your side? Like, can we trust him now? It's been like 5 or 6, you know, times where he's showing up and disappearing. And I like the part where him and Edge the Ninja, you know, they get into it about, how can we trust you? And Kain says, if it ever happens again, you'll just have to kill me. And it's like, that really resonated with me when I was younger. You know, like, wow, like, he wants to be heroic. So that's awesome. I liked, again, the use of the fiends. I liked the use of the crystals. There were dwarves in that game as well. In the underground, it was really very funny. Final Fantasy V is a game that I got into much, much later, because we didn't have it here in the United States when I was growing up. But when I did play it on the PlayStation later on, aside from having, you know, kind of like the load times for the battles being pretty whacked out, and when I tried to save it, that it would always glitch up, I really enjoyed that game too. I thought that the whole class system was very, you know, well done. Obviously, they had done it in 3, but I never had 3, so that was kind of unique for me. I actually played Final Fantasy Tactics before I played Final Fantasy V, and in Tactics you had the job system, so I kind of went in there with more understanding, I guess, of what was going on. But I definitely hadn't mastered anything yet, and the way that you could, you know, put the abilities together in 5 was a lot different than in Tactics. So I respect, you know, the people that put their heart and soul into making 5, because it was definitely a great game. And Galuf, or Galuf, or whatever the hell you want to call him, is definitely one of the best characters that the Final Fantasy franchise has. He's one of the strongest characters, I think. He's very selfless and very dedicated to his friends, and definitely dedicated to stopping evil. So kudos for that. And for I can't say enough good things about Gilgamesh. He was just a really great character for that game. His battle music was completely epic. Final Fantasy VI, I cannot say enough good things about that game. Final Fantasy VII, don't believe all the hype. Just play it for what it is. You know, formulate your own opinions. Final Fantasy VIII, I really didn't like. Final Fantasy IX, I thought came back and was a lot stronger of a game, going back to its roots. Final Fantasy X, I really didn't get into. It was hard to get into that sphere grid thing. Final Fantasy XI online, I played that to death. Final Fantasy XII, I did not play. Final Fantasy XIII, I did not play. And Final Fantasy XIV is broken, so that's hard to do. If you liked anything of what I said, if you felt the way that I did, if you'd like more information, if you have specific questions that you'd like me to answer, if you want to add your own 2 cents, there's a little comment box underneath the video here somewhere, where around there. Please feel free to drop me some comments. Share your experiences with the games with me. If I passed over a game that you really played to death and loved, share it with me so that I can get into it and, share that same feeling of yay. Um, I think that a lot of us kind of shut out other people's opinions, and we always have this feeling that, oh well, if we're going to have an argument about which Final Fantasy is the best, obviously, it has to be in terms of absolutes, like there can only be one winner, and I think that that's really wrong. I think that in different respects, each one of the Final Fantasies has something to offer the player. Otherwise, it wouldn't be around. It would have been made into a game. I think that some of them, especially a lot of the earlier on ones, they definitely targeted their audience really well. They were much more of a complete game to me. It felt like I was embarking on an epic quest. When I started getting into Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and beyond, it kind of didn't feel as epic anymore. It just kind of felt like, hey, here's another game. But that's just my opinion. Please feel free to leave your own. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again.